Well, good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, and here we are in Inspiration for Today one more time, and I'm glad you joined us. As you know, we're on this anniversary trip, Diane and I, and we want to share these experiences with you. And we had something happen on last Saturday, which I think was May. No, I don't know. The dates are mixed up for me. But anyway, an event like we have not seen very often in our life, and that was a heavy, heavy downpour of rain. And that rain is not totally unusual for here, but it was a lot. It was about 8 inches of rain in a 24-hour, maybe a 36-hour period of time. Phenomenal. And it goes back to one thing that happened here with 10 inches of rain in a shorter period of time. They still talk about it. It was in 1987. And this river behind me is called the Guadalupe River. And further on down the river, there was a church camp going on. And make a long story short, that camp was filled with children, and they were from the a Baptist church in Dallas. And long story short, they tried to get the kids out from the flash flood that was coming from upriver to downriver, and a bus got caught in the flood, and they got 25 people out, 25 children and adults out. 10 died. This was so famous and hurtful that the first episode of Rescue 911, the TV show, was about that disaster. And they've even made a movie about it. It was that well known and that terrible, actually. So it can be very serious, and where I'm sitting on that day, as you can see, well, I'm going to film a little bit and around, and maybe we can put it up as I talk a little bit, but all these rocks around here, as well as where I'm sitting, were covered with water. And so it was a major, major time. I thought it only appropriate that while we show you the video I shot of that rain, I would read from the story of Noah. So sit back, enjoy the story. You know the story, but it has a happy, well, for Noah, happy ending. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of heaven were opened, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Verse 17 of chapter 7 of Genesis. For 40 days the flood kept coming on the earth, and as the waters increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and the entire heavens, mountains were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 20 feet. Chapter 8 of Genesis at verse 4. And by the way, it was now over. The flood was starting to recede. Chapter 8, verse 3. The water receded steadily from the earth. At the end of the 150 days, the water had gone down. And on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Verse 15 of chapter 8. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move above the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase upon it. So, verse 18, Noah did come out together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives. All the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds, everything came out of the ark, one kind after the other. Verse 20, and then Noah built an altar to the Lord, taking some of all the clean animals and the clean birds, and he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, never again will I curse the ground because of man. And even though every inclination of his heart is evil from childhood, I will never again destroy all living creatures as I have done. Chapter 9 at verse 12. And God said, this is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. And let me just on the side, that includes you and I. What is that covenant? How do we know that God will never again do this? Verse 13, chapter 9. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And whenever I bring clouds over the earth and a rainbow appears in my clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all the living creatures on every kind of earth. So God said to Noah, this is the sign of my covenant I have established between me and all life on earth. Isn't that something that when that huge, huge rain we endured that day, God gave us that same sign that he gave Noah. That beautiful, beautiful rainbow. I've never seen a bigger, brighter rainbow in all my life than that. That was absolutely amazing. God is so good, and the next time you see a rainbow, don't just enjoy the rainbow. Say in a prayer, Lord, thank you. Thank you, God, that you have made a covenant, a promise between you and I, that the floodwaters will never again cover the whole earth. By the way, I know I have always been impressed when I read that story, that having been cooped up in that ark for all that time, the very first thing that Noah did as he came out was what? Remember? He built an altar and worshiped the Lord. That is very impressive to me, that of all the things that, looking for a place to live or what to do next, Noah builds an altar and he worships his Lord. That is awesome. And I always take that as a reminder for me to not take worship for granted and not skip a Sunday. That's why, we've made a point of, we've found a place to worship the Lord every week on this trip. And that's just a part of our life. And I know it's a part of your life also. So we have had an amazing time. I hope you enjoyed the rain today. I'm going to just take a little video and maybe end this on showing you this river and where it overflowed even this week. So bye for now.
Beautiful day, it's wonderful. This is the day that the